This is the first in a series of tutorials on how to use Zebra to model carbon and energy in buildings. Zebra is a spreadsheet-based tool, and in this video we're going to cover the overall layout of that spreadsheet, but we're going to go into much more detail in later tutorials. So the first step is to download the model from our website. I'd always recommend you download a fresh copy of the model because we do update it quite often. We also ask for some basic information about the building you're designing. This is just to help us improve the model. Once you've gone through that, you can just download the spreadsheet and launch it. This is the first thing you'll see when you open the file. And this sheet only consists of a lot of text, which is describing the background to the development of the model. We've actually covered that elsewhere, so I'm not going to go into that at all. I'll just skip straight to the Instructions tab. This sheet also has an awful lot of text which describes how to use the model. So this is useful reading and actually quite good to refer back to as you're using the spreadsheet. It also contains a single input, which is to set the complexity level. The complexity level is a powerful feature of Zebra which allows you to model at different levels of complexity depending what stage you are at the design. So at the early stages of design, you probably don't have a lot of detailed parameters and you might want to model at a low complexity level, and the model will make assumptions about those parameters you haven't input. Whereas as your design evolves, you might have a lot more detail available and you might want to increase the complexity level, add more detailed parameters, and get better model outputs. Beneath the complexity level input, we have a summary of the subsequent inputs that are going to be required to the model, and these will be done in these red input tabs. So the Requirements tab is going to require this list of inputs. The Weather tab, this list of inputs. And you can see that as we change the complexity level, additional inputs will appear. These red input tabs get quite detailed, and we're going to cover those entirely in separate tutorials. I'm going to skip all the way to the Summary tab. The summary sheet is where the output of the model is presented. This one isn't going to show anything much because I haven't defined any inputs, so I'm going to open another file where I have. And you can see that in the summary sheet we have the energy and carbon performance of the building broken down in various ways. And we also have a list of the requirements we've defined and whether they've been achieved or not. So for instance, in this example, you can see the space cooling demand requirement has not been achieved. This allows us to go back over the design and just change parameters until we do achieve our requirements. So this is a really powerful feature of Zebra. So for instance, for this space cooling demand problem, we can go back and add to the glazing tab some temporary shading on the windows, like roller blinds, for instance. I'm not going to go into this because it will be covered in another video. Once we've done that, we can come back into a Summary tab, and we can see that now our space cooling demand requirement is achieved. So we can really quickly iterate the design in this way. The sheets after the Summary tab have no direct input on the model. The Calculator sheet is a series of tools that you might find useful as you're inputting into the model. So this one, for instance, helps you to calculate the fraction of the visible sky available to a window. Like I said, it doesn't input directly into the model, but it allows you to calculate a value which you can then copy and paste into a model input if you need to. And lastly, the License tab just defines the terms of the license under which the Zebra model is distributed. That's a brief overview of the layout of the Zebra spreadsheet. We're going to go into much more detail on the input tabs and the summary sheet in later tutorials.